We're ready to roll. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, play.
NWA World Tag Team Champions, Barry Windham and Lex Luger. What an electrified crowd that was here for that event.
And the electricity, it will not stop, ladies and gentlemen. The heavyweight championship
That's
of the
when these
world
two
will
guys
be
were
decided
at the
right
best.
here in this ring in
Yep.
just a few moments.
At
We
the
have
best,
our
the height of
judges
their
here
career.
at ringside right now. Let's begin our festivities and our introductions and go.
And they really work well together. They still do.
Ladies and gentlemen, this event, a one-fall match with a 45-minute time limit for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. For this event, there must be a winner. We do have judges outside the ring. Introducing to you right now our panel of judges. Terry Juster of the member of board of directors of the National Wrestling Alliance. Former NWA professional wrestling star, Sandy Scott. The Pet of the Year, Patty Mullen. And someone you know and love from the hit television series, Ken Osmond, who portrays Eddie Haskell on the new Leave It to Beaver. Also, we'd like to welcome Jason Hervey, star of The Wonder Years.
All right, so we can take down the audio there. I just wanted everybody to hear the introduction of the celebrities. I'm fascinated by the idea that you guys had a penthouse pet there.
Yeah.
That doesn't exactly feel like family programming, but I'm sure you were not opposed.
I know, but I look back at that now and I think I don't know who to this day I'm not sure how a couple of people were involved in judging a world championship wrestling match.
Yeah, Eddie Haskell.
Yeah,
in the Wonder Years.
We've gone from with Steamboat and I was Pat O'Connor, Buddy Rogers, Terry Funk, Luthez, and this one right here. I don't know. I'm not sure about how that group arrived there.
I assume some of that is because TBS said, "Hey,
exactly,
we want you to cross promote."
Yep.
So here we see Sting coming in, and by the way, this is the match where a lot of people agree you made Sting. I just want to give everyone the context of this. He didn't even show up on TBS until October of the prior year, October 17th, 1987. And I think you've only really worked Sting a couple of times in the run up to this. Why was Sting the right opponent, Rick?
I know Dusty just came to me and said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I love him. I mean, I think it was new, fresh, and he had that look that that very few guys have ever had. I mean, the paint, the charisma, very charismatic, really athletic. There's the robe that Darius has.
Yep.
No, it was just one of those things that worked out, and I don't think I ever met a nicer guy. Some guys are just really too nice for this business, and he and Ricky Steamboat were two of them. I mean, just really nice guys. I mean, Sting to this day, just remains one of the most humble, nice people I've ever met. So
we see JJ Dillon going up in what I've known as the shark cage. Let's track the audio here. Let's hear these introductions.
We left them in Sarasota there one night for an hour after the building closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, one stipulation of this event: James J. Dillon will be suspended high above the ring.
His greatness was really underestimated.
Introducing now the challenger from Venice Beach, California, weighing in at 260 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sting. And now, the world's heavyweight champion 5 times over. Ladies and gentlemen, weighing in at 242 pounds, the world's heavyweight champion from Charlotte, North Carolina, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
We can end the track there, but man, how underrated was Truckin' Tom Miller? He did a great job, did he not?
He did. He did. Yes, he did. Tom was great.
and there was probably, if you had your pick, there's nobody you'd rather be in there with than Tommy Young, right?
Oh, absolutely. To this day. I mean, Tommy should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. I hate that people like that get, over or get left out because as time goes by. But
People
he was
forget.
fantastic.
The show here has 6,000 fans in attendance, and as a reminder, guys, this is head to head with WrestleMania. So sure, you could pay and come out of your pocket and have a pay per view for WrestleMania, or you could just have it absolutely free right here on TBS, a world title match. And Sting at this point was gaining a lot of momentum. I mean, he certainly has the look that the WWF was trying to go for.
Did he ever, huh?
With the face paint and the entertainment and the fun haircut and the rat tail and the neon colors. And
yeah, he was. I just can't say enough about him. He was great.
we see Gary Juster on the end right there. And
I talk to Gary periodically now.
he's I talked to him not too long ago. He's got a big surgery coming up, so we're pulling for him.
Oh, he does? I didn't know.
I think he's getting a new hip put in.
Oh, I did not know that.
So we're pulling for him, and hopefully he makes a speedy recovery. I've known a few folks.
I can't tell you how many hotels he's bailed me out of in the morning when my credit card didn't work. Big night at the bar, kids.
I'll tell you, man, that damn daily limit, it gets you when you're buying those $4,000 dinners.
The daily limit, is that what it is?
Well, no, seriously. Is
what happened? Is that what happened in Dallas when you bailed me out? Was the daily limit?
I'm sure of it. The daily limit.
Sam's?
What you got to do, Rick, is you got to go down to your local banker and you got to say, "Hey, man,
oh, I got one now.
$2,000 shit ain't cutting it. I need a $10,000 daily limit." And then, spend to your heart's content, I suppose.
I got a new bank in Tampa, man. I'm rolling now.
By the way, what we're watching right now, Rick, and I know you didn't keep up with this back then. This is the 1988 match of the year, according to the readers of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. So think about that. Of every match that the readers saw, whether it was here in America or in Mexico or in Japan, but certainly the NWA, certainly the WWF, this is the match that people said was the very best match of the year. And I'm excited we get to watch it together here.
Oh, I always like back. Anything to do with Sting. I think I have watched this back before, but certainly I've watched highlights of it.
How did you decide what you were going to wear? Like, how did you land on purple trunks and purple knee pads here?
I really don't know, because I never asked my opponent what they were wearing. I just, picked out something that I thought was nice. If I had a good tan, I probably wore lighter colors. It all depended on where I had been. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure. I obviously was home in Charlotte before this, but I can guarantee I didn't go home that night.
Yeah, it's time to have a little fun, I would guess. When you're structuring a match like this, and of course we know that, boy, wrestling has changed quite a bit. Oh man, look at there, the chop, and he just starts walking you down. Is that something you guys would have worked out beforehand?
No, I'd call it there. He that's one thing I liked about Steve. He could say it and he got it.
Yeah.
Not what'd you say? I mean, he was very attentive. Mike, I said this when I inducted him in the Hall of Fame. To go out there and wrestle 50 minutes is not easy if you haven't ever done it before. And he had never done. I don't bet he had his longest match up to now. Probably been 15 minutes. So it's amazing. And I didn't want to press him, because a lot of the stuff that we did was where he had to be at himself to press slam me and stuff like that. But he never got tired. He never drew a deep breath. And I don't think he ever got really nervous either.
You guys were clearly working on this match on the build up here. You would work together in Baltimore on the 10th. On the 12th, you would work together in the 13th in Columbus, Ohio. You did the same match at the Omni on the 13th as well. You took it all over. I mean, whether you're talking Reno, Nevada, a couple of weeks prior, you were there with this one, the Great Western Forum, which obviously is where the Lakers play. That would have been a big time opportunity.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati Gardens. So even the UIC Pavilion in Chicago and St. Louis, Missouri, and the night before even. So in Richmond, Virginia, you're still doing this same match in front of 2,000 fans there. by that point, you've really got all the bugs and kinks.
Yes.
You got a
Yeah.
system worked out now, right?
Yeah. I was really comfortable with him as he was with me.
Shoots you in the ropes there, big shoulder tackle, drop down, leapfrog. Look there, man. You guys are on fire here. Oh, and the big press slam. You loved having Sting press slam me.
Yeah. Well, he was good, boy. See, he lost it for a second. It's so strong, he recovered.
Man, you don't see him do a lot of head scissor takeovers, but there they are, and a big hip toss. Man, this is just nonstop action so far, and that's the reason Meltzer loved it. He would say Ric Flair and Sting went to a 45-minute draw in the NWA title match. This was certainly a match of the year candidate. The match started out slow paced, but the heat never died, and it was never dull. Flair did a great job of selling like bear hugs and headlocks early on. Actually, there's no wrestler in the business who could have put on the performance Flair did in this match. He was so good, I almost thought Sting was going to stand there in awe of him. Sting held up his end, although Flair was certainly doing the carrying. I also want to make mention of Jim Ross, who did a tremendous job with Tony Schiavone on the commentary the whole show, but especially in the first 25 minutes when things were so spaced. He sold the match and sold the intensity and the importance of the match. We had the impression we were watching a classic before it actually turned into a legit classic. The commentary piece, Rick, I don't think gets enough attention. And I've
No,
heard
it
some
doesn't.
people say that you guys are making the music, but they provide the lyrics to the song. And I think JR was at his best in this era. Just my opinion.
Oh yeah, as I said earlier, those guys were really, their chemistry was great, and Jim has always been, when he's on, man, he as you know, the announcers can make you or break you, even today at AEW or WWE, and that's one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of who's the kid we were talking about earlier that just came on. It does the color on SmackDown.
Oh yeah, Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee is fabulous. It brings so much energy to it.
Yes. This is nonstop action, and you compare this to what the WWF was presenting that day, and Meltzer would say this: Jim Crockett kicked Vince McMahon's ass Sunday afternoon, and on the single least likely day of the year for that to happen. Of course, we won't have anything resembling economic figures, and McMahon did make more money, of course, which some would say is the bottom line. I can't believe anyone who would watch both shows could do anything but laugh at the comparison. There really was no comparison. The WWE or the WWF at the time was certainly more entertainment. This was more physicality. I mean, let's not forget earlier on this same show on TBS, there was a barbed wire match.
Yeah.
And this is, these days when there's more quote unquote smart fans and people want to know what star ratings are and all that. Well, there's nothing that's going to compare to you and Sting on that day on either show.
Well, you hope not. But I have to look back at JJ. They're never nonstop energy. You can just sit in that cage and do nothing because you never know when the camera's going to be on you.
Right.
But every time they hit JJ, he's in motion. I don't think there's no way they could have buzzed him and tell him to keep moving around. So my kudos to him.
I'm not saying that you've ever said that you made Sting, but a lot of people point to this match and say, boy, he made Sting that day. Do you remember Sting being nervous about this opportunity?
Oh, I think he was, but not to the point where it affected him in the ring. That's the one thing. When you're really nervous, I've had guys throw up before they wrestled me, and I just thought to myself, I just knew him, and like you said, we had some matches earlier. He just knew what he was doing, and even though that Steamboat, that spot right there, I used to do with Steamboat all the time, and Steve didn't really know where to drop right there, so it looked kind of awkward. But he if he told you something, he could do anything.
I'm curious.
If I told him something, he could do anything.
Tommy Young here is at this point probably the best referee in the business. What made Tommy so special?
He loved being in part of it. He wanted to be as big a part of the match as he possibly could be. And he never took any time off. Does that make sense? He moved around. He dove in for the 1-2s. He actually made it, he made it look really like it was. See him right here? He's not getting too much, but he's just making.
Oh, look at there, switching it around. He goes from a chop to here come the big punches in the corner. You don't see this very much anymore. Or he's just threatening right now. How about that? And he eases up, acquiesces. Man, just nonstop motion. The Flair flop, buddy. Golly, that's good stuff.
Woo choose.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
See what I mean?
Just nonstop action up there, man. What'd you guys call that? Did you have a nickname for the shark cage?
No, I told you that we're in Sarasota one night. I was wrestling Dusty. When they closed the building, left JJ in a cage for an hour after the building was closed. Up in the air.
I'm sure he was not too tickled with that.
I was back at the bar and he was just getting out of the cage.
Tommy Young on the outside, making sure he got a good shot. I don't know that I've ever seen that before.
No, man, Tommy was just he had that natural instinct to just be where to be. You know what I mean? Look at that chick. What do you think she's thinking about me right now? She can't be looking at Sting, can she?
I mean, maybe.
God, he was handsome, wasn't he?
He was. Still is.
Yeah, still is. He is.
The match got 4 3/4 stars from Meltzer. You guys went to a draw. Of course, that was really your MO as the touring NWA champion, especially in the years prior when you're hitting all the different territories. You're the bad guy, the flashy, flamboyant, millionaire, big shot bad guy, and you come to town, challenge or allow their big baby face to challenge you, and he gets so close, but doesn't ever quite get it done. And there's lots of time limit draws. This is another example of that. Is that Jackie Crockett we see moving around the outside there?
Yeah, it sure is. It's funny. I'll tell you a funny story about the end of this match. I was out of my mind because they gave me the wrong time cues.
Really?
Yeah, I sat in a scorpion way too long because they gave me the wrong time cues. I was screaming at Jackie afterwards.
So Jackie would have been the one communicating with you?
Yeah. Well, Jackie was giving the time to Tommy.
So Jackie probably has a headset on, I would guess.
Yeah.
So he's hearing from the truck and he's communicating to Tommy.
Yeah.
I got you. Jackie's like one of the unsung heroes of the Crockett outfit. We hear people talk about Jim all the time. We saw David all the time. But man, one of the guys who's there a lot of times right there in the middle of all this with you is Jackie, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, Jackie hung with us every day. But it just, here's what happens. You talked about Tom Miller and some of the other guys, right?
Yeah.
The old school guys, and even as good as they were, if you don't understand what's going on in these events, we're not doing stuff like this before. All of a sudden, the guys that have never done this stuff are doing, live matches on TV, where we have to be precisely on time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And they didn't know how to do it. So you can't really fault them. You just wonder how in the hell do you get better at it? Because, Vince's guys never, to this day, they don't miss a cue, and they do, they're in a world of shit. Time cues are everything, especially on live TV, which this was.
To be clear, Sting right here had just had his 29th birthday. And he hadn't been in the business a whole hell of a long time. But of course, I think everybody knows famously, he started at the exact same time as the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
And the Ultimate Warrior is going to be a big part of the WrestleMania show. And of course, 2 years from here, Sting's going to become the world champion, as does the Ultimate Warrior on the other channel. And it's been fun for me to think about if you could fantasy book, what if things turned out differently and somehow Jim Hellwig wound up with Jim Crockett Promotions and Steve Borden wound up with the World Wrestling Federation. I think Sting could have somehow been an even bigger star with that WWF merchandising.
Absolutely. And Jim Hellwig would have been on the first match.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
If he got booked, period. Sorry to say that, but you hate to say anything about someone that's not here, but There's no comparison in their ability in the ring.
How many matches did you have with Warrior over the years? Just a handful, right?
Just two in my life.
What was that like?
They were horrible. The first one, I came out of the ring in Winnipeg, Canada, and Pat Patterson was standing there and said, "That's the worst world championship match I've ever seen in my life." And I said, "Pat, you don't have to tell me. I was in it." The second time with Charles Barkley in the front row in Phoenix, he dropped me on my head, and that's when I got the inner ear problem.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Then the next day, I flew in and dropped the belt to Brett. Remember?
I knew you had some sort of vertigo thing, and
Oh,
that's
it was bad. Yeah, and that's why I felt so bad about the match with Brett when we changed the title to him, and then I went home because I couldn't get up and down with the equilibrium.
right.
It makes sense. I could get up, but I didn't have my balance.
Yeah.
It's kind of like remember after Edge suplexed me in a ladder match.
Yep.
That happened to me again.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Where he gave me the suplex, and the thing went out for a minute, and he went up to drop kick me. Remember, I walked the wrong way because I couldn't walk straight.
Wow.
The other time it happened when Jeff Jarrett hit me with a guitar. But otherwise, I've been lucky. It's been normal. But
There's another thing for me to give Jeff shit about. You know, he's on his podcast every week telling everybody he's a horseman, and I'm not buying it.
Yeah, tell me he gave me the vertigo gimmick in Detroit.
So if this wasn't Sting, you know, let's say for whatever,
Look at the energy he has here.
firing up, man, getting the crowd into it.
Yeah.
And physically, this is
He's so damn athletic too. See, here's the deal. When you're working with a guy like this and you want to make him strong, he's got to work strong all the way through. So when he missed that elbow, there's no way that he can sell it after what we've been through. Does that make sense?
yes.
He missed it and got right back up. Now, if he lays there like he got killed after missing an elbow, anything else we do psychology-wise doesn't mean anything. We've already painted a picture that he's like, almost incredibly difficult to get down.
What's the rule of thumb to match structure, Rick? There's a lot of folks who are listening to this who've never obviously been in a wrestling match, but is there a formula that you like to abide by?
Well, my formula is to get the guy over, depending on the length of time you have in the match, is to get the guy you're working with over so strong that when you finally cut him off, the people will feel sorry for him. But you have to cut him off with a cheap shot. It can't be something where you're just overpowering him. Those kind of things, I've never thought that was cool. Does that make sense? If I'm gonna take Undertaker down, I got to do it really, with a low blow or somebody interferes.
Crafty.
How else do I get him down? Does that make sense?
Yep.
I used to tell Mark, I used to tell Andre, anybody like Big Show, if you guys would just fall to your knees, so we're almost the same height, we can really have a match. Just sell from your knees, where I can do logical stuff. You know what I mean? Jump on them and all that. Because otherwise, it's so much bigger, it doesn't make sense. Look at Eddie. Eddie thinks he's going home with the penthouse girl. I don't think so.
Boy, this is a different era. You could just see, when you look out in the crowd, obviously this is pre-cell phones. This is pre, camera phones and really signs. There's not a ton of signs here, but everybody's paying attention. Everybody knows how significant this is, especially in Greensboro.
Yeah. Well, you notice that he, when he sells for me too, he really sells.
Yeah, he does. JJ's earning his money tonight, man.
Yeah. But you notice, I tell you, the fact that he's always on.
Doing a great job selling the back right now after you've thrown him into the guardrail, now into the buckles.
Yeah. He really knew how to sell for a guy that big. I mean, Sting is just plain as handsome and pretty as anybody could be right here. You know what I mean? But this is where you learn. This is where he's Ricky Steamboat and Ricky Morton and selling that to it.
Did you have a favorite set of spots that you like to do with Sting? We saw the press slam a lot, but are there?
Drop down, leapfrog, drop down, leapfrog.
Yeah,
that was my favorite. I would just call it first spot of the match. I say, let me have a warm up bump, then we'll go.
this knee drop here. This is a Harley Race special, is it not?
Yeah, I just changed it around. Harley always just did it standing over you,
Yeah.
so I just backed up. But that's clearly I learned it from Harley.
What's the magic of having the best knee drop possible?
Not to hurt the guy. You can tear his forehead off if you're not careful.
Is that just trial and error? Just tons of practice to get that done? I mean, you've told us before.
Well, plus the back with me, I wore a knee pad, so wasn't going to happen that often. But like, some guys like Dusty and that would cut themselves when I did it. I'd pull the knee pad up, right, and hit them with my shin bone.
Yeah.
Which in reality would open anybody up, right? So everybody had a different way of doing it, but just them trusting me. And see, one thing about Sting too, Sting let me hit him. And I mean, I really would punch him, knock the shit out of him, chopping him. My steamboat, he stayed open, always stayed open.
The judges at ringside, as we said, probably a TBS call, but boy, it does a great job because you had a 5.8 rating, a 12.6 share. That means it was viewed in over 2.5 million homes. And of course, these days, we don't talk about the number of homes. We talk about the number of people. So if you assume that there's just 2 people per household, that's 5 million folks that are watching this. But realistically, it's even more than that. I mean, this is a big.
It got a 7.7 rating, right?
I think it got a 5.8. I don't know. Steve just undid my notes, so I'm not sure.
Oh, I thought it was a 7.7 for a while.
I don't know. I had it, and I don't know.
That's fun to look back on it. Man, those damn obliques have haunted me my whole life.
5.8, 12.6 share.
Okay.
This is obviously going to be the match that helped make Sting. On the other channel, we've got Randy Savage becoming the man. Were you friendly with Randy? Had you ever even worked with Randy at this point? Did you know him in '88?
Oh, I helped break Randy in.
Really?
Randy came to Charlotte in 75, right after I got there. He had just come from playing minor league baseball with the Cardinals, and he and Lanny lived together. I kind of helped break Randy in. Man, we got along real well.
Man, look at Sting.
I didn't see him again for a long time until we got to New York, but yeah, I was like Randy.
Man, look at you begging off. This is great stuff. And then of course you outsmart him. Down goes Sting. Some of your best stuff here, man. This is really, really good stuff. And then we see Sting by Sandy Scott. That's a name that some wrestling fans, younger fans may not be familiar with. Tell us about Sandy Scott.
Sandy and George, yep. George is the one that got me where I'm at.
Can you explain what they meant to your career and what their roles were in the business?
Well, Sandy was just a good friend. George was the booker that gave me the idea to call Olivia Walker and to start doing the Rogers stuff, which I'll quote Harley. Flair took Rogers stuff to a whole new level. But he's the one that gave me the idea. And then Olivia made my first robe, and then we were off and running.
What was Sandy doing behind the scenes for the company?
He ran towns. He ran about 5 of the towns. Roanoke, he lived up in the Roanoke area, but he was always at Greensboro. So he did the kind of things that a guy like Steve's 255 there, to be able, even though I'm helping him a little bit, to be able to nip up like that.
Big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah. I mean, and here he is. We got to be 30 minutes into the match, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're almost 30 minutes right in from our playback here. A big hip toss out of the corner, but that's the third time he set that Big punch up in the corner. Oh, and there we go for a near fall.
Yeah, that's the only thing that we didn't do very well is we didn't have a lot of false finishes because we just weren't that familiar with each other and having gone that long. I don't think the longest we'd ever gone before was probably about 25 minutes.
Yeah. I should mention that you guys were really working this pretty regular. You even continued it the very next day, Greenville, South Carolina, at the Memorial Auditorium. It
Yeah.
was no DQ match with you and Sting.
Hmm.
You guys were going to be married not just for this short run, but really for the rest of your careers. When
Yep.
did you know you were going to be married to Sting for the long haul?
Probably after this match
Yeah.
because it was so well received. And I just think he just, he got better every day.
On the other side of this match, like when you're all done, you're coming back through the curtain. Did you feel like you guys had done something special? Were you feeling it, or were
I
you
did,
not?
I did, but I can remember like it was yesterday. I was so mad. As you'll see at the end of the match, I was in a scorpion way too long.
Yeah.
And that when once there's no way to get to the rope and have them put it on me again, it will look like shit. But if I had to do over again, the two things if I had to do over again, I would have really gone over that with the referee and the time of that. And number two, when he beat me in Baltimore, I would have. I regret that looking back. I know I should have had him beat me with the scorpion.
Well, let's do some questions. By the way, if you want to ask a question here on the program, you can do it over on Twitter at To Be the Man Pod. It's at To Be the Man Pod on Twitter. Adam wants to know, what were the feelings backstage concerning the first clash going up against WrestleMania? Was there any additional pressure to put on a great match knowing that fact?
No, I think we just look at it as a challenge, and we one thing that you as you've done through this podcast, Conor, you pointed out we worked every day.
Yeah.
It's like you said, we didn't go home after this. I got drunk and went to work the next day in Greenville. We did the same thing. I don't know what Steve did back then. I think he might have had a drink or two back then, but the show was on the road, man. We didn't have days off. That was unheard of.
Drew Landry wants to know, you said in other media Sting was your toughest opponent. Was this the match you knew Sting was your toughest opponent, or was there another?
See, look at the athletic ability there.
That crossbody all the way across the ring was unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't think he was my toughest opponent, but he was one of the most fun to be with. By toughest, I mean, when I tell people, I'm usually I feel like we're talking about Harley Race.
Right.
The two different words. But Steve is certainly one of the most talented. And see, if a guy isn't with you, if he wasn't with me trying to lift him up for that move to get him that high over my body,
That's
it
impossible.
would actually look like I hurt his knee.
Yeah.
That's athleticism on his part.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, well, they don't feel comfortable if they don't know where they're going. Because I've suplexed guys, got them like that and dropped them on their back, but they don't trust you. But he trusted me through everything.
Michael McClanahan asked a great question here, Rick. He wants to know, people oftentimes credit this match and Ric Flair as being one of the ones to put Sting on the map. Who does Rick remember working with that elevated his career the same way Rick elevated Sting?
Wahoo McDaniels.
Really?
Yes. But it was never on national TV.
Right.
Wahoo taught me a lot. It was survival, man, with Wahoo. He was so damn tough. But I learned how to be, hang in there. And what these guys like Wahoo were so competitive. It's hard to explain. I mean, I've wrestled so many great guys. See what I mean right here? He's right there for it. And that people can believe that because if in real life it would hurt if you dropped someone like that.
Of course.
We're trying to answer your question. What did you ask me prior to that about? Yeah, tough guys. I mean, Jack Mulligan was a real tough guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
I called guys like Steamboat and Sting a night off. So easy. I would look at Sting and the referee was giving instructions. I would say, "You're in the ring tonight with the greatest athlete in the world today." He'd start laughing. That was it. That's all we did was have fun. He just listened to everything. It was perfect.
Josh wants to know, I've heard on other podcasts that back in the territory days, the champions had to be quote unquote shoot badasses because guys would come and try to make a name for themselves by beating the champion. My question is, many wrestling fans have you and Shawn Michaels as 1A and 1B, with the main difference being you are the best traveling champion. Do you have any stories that you can share where a guy tried to take liberties and maybe legit beat you for the belt and make a name for himself in a smaller territory? Just wondering, because we don't hear a lot of shoot stories when you were trying to defend the
I
title.
only went through that once with Jumbo Tsuruta in Japan.
Really?
Yeah, they wanted to beat me. That's why they sent Harley with me. Harley had to manage me. See how athletic he is to go up that high, and he wasn't worried about me dropping him on his head or anything.
Yeah, at 35 minutes into the match too.
Yeah, once you've gone that long, and then you trust someone, because you know, once you've been dropped on your head going backwards, you'll never forget it. I guarantee you. One time land on your head backwards, and you'll remember it your whole career. If you hurt yourself.
You know, when you were setting this figure 4 up and you drug him over and then you did it a second time, I thought, man, you're going to be so close. You're going to hit your head on the ropes, and you didn't. Duh. It's because you're going to set it up to get this extra leverage here. You damn dirty cheater. You.
Yeah, I know it. I was horrible. This is where Tom Young was so good.
Yes.
I'd be talking to Tom Young right now. See, he's listening to me.
Right.
See, here's the other thing I would tell these guys. This is real important. This is the kind of stuff that makes wrestling good guys or good wrestlers are bad. If I'm going to hold the rope, if I don't hold the rope and he doesn't sell like I'm holding the rope, it doesn't make any difference.
Right.
Okay, he can sell regular right there, but when I grab the rope, watch him. Watch what he does. He really goes crazy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
This is where you need a good referee. Because if I'm grabbing the rope and he stays in the same position, it doesn't mean shit. This is where Steve really learned at a young age how to sell this stuff. You know, if you're going to put your foot in the ropes, try to hold the guy's shoulder down, you know what I mean? That's where the referee, the timing comes in. So important. See,
It's got to be a great referee.
This is the first time I told him this. To drag me back in the middle of the ring. See, now I'm panicking because I can't get to it.
This is great stuff, man. Oh, and now he's going to reverse it. Everybody knows what's coming. And now he's got it. Classic stuff, man. Chase Lamar says, it's been speculated often, and you may have answered this before, but what do you think would have happened if Sting and Warrior had reversed? We kind of talked about that earlier, but the big question is, do you think Sting would have had similar or more success with the WWF?
Sting would have been put in a political position where I don't know that he would have survived. But did he have talent? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I told him a bunch of times when all this stuff started happening in WCW, I said, let me call Vince McMahon. But he stayed true to it, and they paid him a lot of money, and you know, it worked out for him ultimately. But he, towards the end when all the crap was going on, he deserved to be up there. And he would have been huge up there. But like everywhere else, there's politics too, you know, the new guy coming in, you know, maybe I'm wrong. I'm just saying from the merchandise standpoint, as handsome as he was, that gear, paint and everything. And the kids just loved him. Everybody loved him.
I'm
telling Tom Young to get out here so I can. Tommy's right there. How good is that?
He's tremendous, dude. Big standing suplex, staple back then. Why don't you think people do the standing suplex more often now?
I don't know, because they've forgotten how good it looked. Because nobody sells anything.
Oh, double knees up for the splash. Dirty Dog wants to know, what are Rick's thoughts on doing the Clash of the Champions specials? Did he think they'd help Jim Crockett Promotions? Of course, at this point, you're playing catch-up ball. But, you know, the Ole Anderson school of thought, the old school way of thinking was, man, you can't give away these big-time shows. It'll kill your houses. So you shouldn't put this thing on TV. But others would say, no, this is what it takes to grow. What did you think back then, Rick, in 1988?
Well, I didn't understand the financial ramifications as much as I probably should have. So I actually thought that it was better to do these big shows live, because you have to remember our viewing audience. We didn't have which killed us. We didn't have the saturation on the West Coast with TBS that the network TV has had for them. So now, of course, TBS is everywhere. But back then, anything west of the Mississippi, that they didn't have nearly the saturation. So that's why first time we went to LA and all that, we sold out. But every house after that went down. It's not because we didn't give them great shows. We just didn't have we didn't have the audience.
Andy Pugh wants to know, what was it about Sting that made him the guy that you wanted to eventually drop the title to instead of Lex Luger?
Because I promised Sting in Corpus Christi. I said, I'll wait for you to get back. It was never about Lex. I promised Sting. And Jim Hurd was such an asshole that, I just said, hey, that you just want to do it. There's a lot of reasons. It was nothing against Lex Luger at all. It was that was strictly a contract thing. So people are going to have a different version, a different story. I know the story. So when I was with it, and apparently I was right, because they fired her and I was gone.
This is really a game changer for Sting. As we said, you've been working with him on the loops, but as far as the television audience, the last sort of big time show we saw him at was Starrcade. And he was in the opening 6-man tag with the Freebirds against Eddie Gilbert, Larry Zbyszko, and Rick Steiner. It went to a time limit draw. And, he's on the card, and that's special. That's important. That's cool. But here he is for the world championship in a live TBS special, going to a 45-minute draw. No denying that he's a star on the other side of this. What do you remember his reaction being after the match? Was he as thrilled with it as you were?
Oh, he was really happy. I mean, I liked the match. I just hated the ending.
Right.
Because of the timing situation. I don't think he was aware of that, and then he wouldn't have been in the business long enough to know what I was talking about. But I just felt like ultimately I didn't, because it kept working. But that you can kill a damn hold like that for a babyface when you're sitting in this hold that long. I mean, I should have, if I had thought about it and I was quick enough, then I would have had him carry me back on a stretcher. Like I didn't give up. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Man, look at Sting. Now, just if you're not watching, and by the way, you should be, find us on YouTube. Just look up Ric Flair on YouTube, and ta-da, there it'll be. But
she's in awe of me.
Well, maybe Sting, hypothetically. He's got you in the figure 4. That's one of the staples that you used to have back then is, you could put the figure 4 on them, but they could reverse it, and then they could put the figure 4 on you. As a submission hold, it's pretty cool in that regard that, you would let it go both ways. And we didn't see that a lot with other submission moves, but we did with the figure 4. And I think maybe that's why it works so well.
Yeah. Well, because I couldn't beat anybody with it anyway.
Should have tried arching your back a little bit.
I probably called this too many times.
The punch in the corner and the hip toss out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that one a few times here.
Yeah, I probably called that too many times. The problem was I couldn't get blood in this one, so I was at a loss.
Oh, that was a regular part of the repertoire for sure.
For me, yep. Couldn't work without a blade. I could sell, but I wasn't the same without the red hair.
When this show is over, and you guys have clearly based on
little things like that I taught Sting, he remembered. You can't put a guy's foot on a rope. You gotta hold it in place.
Yes.
The referee, my classic. Now I know we're getting ready to go home.
Oh, it's been a while. We needed to see that.
Yeah.
Up and down on the turnbuckle, and that's something you borrowed from somebody else's book as well, right?
A young man named Ray Stevens. Yep.
Was he your favorite wrestler as a kid?
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, you would think right now with your head down, maybe you're going to come up with a little.
Yeah, I know. It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think I went to do it. Remembered I couldn't do it. I should have dove on top, walked over and fell on top of the penthouse girl. Done the flop right on top of her in a white dress.
It's interesting to see how just the evolution of the set design is different. Different
Oh, yeah, I
barricade.
know.
The rows are way back away from that guardrail too, but no mats around the floor either.
No, I know.
I was getting to though. You think Crockett and Dusty were happy at the end of this program?
Oh yeah, they were ecstatic. I know TBS was too.
Man, isn't it crazy that that really became Hulk's version or Sting's version of hulking up? Just
Yeah,
that Hulk beating the chest thing that really worked.
yeah, that was great.
Raking your head across the top rope. You don't see that anymore either.
No, because guys don't sell it.
The beg off routine, man. Such a classic piece of what you were doing back then. What do you think Sting weighs here, if you had to guess?
255. He got just an unreal physique, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the best shape I think he was ever in. Nothing for that atomic drop. Down goes the clothesline. Great stuff, man. Foot on the rope. Looks like these the toes of these boots are wearing out. That's usually where your boots wear out first, though, right?
Yeah, from the flip.
Yeah.
The metal.
How many pairs of boots do you think you bought over the years?
600.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, remember I used to buy 3 a month.
Wow.
And then of course we all know we're there.
Scattered around everywhere.
Well, yeah, but a pile of them in Charlotte.
You think she still has a bunch of them?
Well, God, I mean, all my trunks, knee pads, I saved all my stuff. It was all gone.
Those damned ex-wives.
Yeah. I had that back. Just think about it. 5 robes with Tiffany. Jesus.
Yeah, that pink one on the top of RicFlairShop.com, I think got sold on the side of a highway.
Yeah.
Like 12 years ago. So clearly in a match like this, I mean, you're the not only the quote unquote heel, but the veteran. So you're going to be calling this. But this is really before there's quote unquote agents in wrestling, right? It's just between you and Sting putting this together.
Yeah, but I don't think we even talked much before the match because dressing rooms were separate there. You would have had to be seen by the crowd. See, this is where he's strong. He comes right back in. This is the kind of stuff that, see how athletic he is?
Yep. Same spot that he just did, but now it's your turn. He's trying to see if he can finish the sunset flip, but you fall down, grab the ropes. Tommy Young's having nothing to do with it. Yeah, that was a false finish. A lot of people stood up right there and thought for sure when Sting reversed it, that was it. In hindsight, would it have been a good idea since they were anointing Randy Savage on the other channel? Could it have worked if you'd have let Sting beat you here for the world title?
Absolutely.
Man, what a great performance. I see why this won match of the year. You don't see very many 45-minute matches in wrestling anymore. Do you think our just attention span as a society in this Twitter society, in this instantaneous world we're in, we don't have the attention span for a 45-minute match anymore? Do you think that's not the case?
I think it depends on who they are and how many guys can do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'll tell you what you can't do anyway, and there's not one in this whole match. people are not going to buy rest holds with live TV with other stuff going on. You cannot sit in a headlock. You cannot sit in an arm bar. You know what I mean? You've got to keep moving. So this right here is where we're going home. And this got screwed up. See?
Yeah, let's track a little bit of this audio here, Steve.
Now Stinger trying to put him away right here.
The eyes are screaming.
Hold on. He won't give up.
Yeah, I'm clearly in there 20 seconds too long.
What a battle, Tony! The National Wrestling Alliance.
Doesn't look that bad there. But
Champion of the world and the #1 contender. It is. They have gone to television 45 minutes.
you remember I said that Dave, Jackie Crockett, goddamn, I'm the best wrestler in the world today, man. Get your clock right. I don't know. What do you think? Do I stay in it too long?
Yeah, I mean, I can see how you would want to be in there a little less time.
Yeah.
The fans here anxious to hear
The pet house pet is making up my mind right now. Me or Sting.
Feel the audio here, Steve. Yeah, I think in theory, what you were saying about being in there too long would be maybe he puts it on at 10 and then you hang on for like the last 8 or 9 seconds, not 20.
Well, that's why I just kept laying there. I had to sell it. Jeez.
I had the great pleasure of having dinner not too long ago with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. He was here in Huntsville for Comic-Con, and we got to get together and enjoy a dinner down at Roost Chris, which you and I have frequented many times here in town. And he's telling me this great story about you and him, where you were supposed to not do an hour. You were supposed to do 20 minutes, according to Mr. Scott. And you guys decided to go long instead. And you had worked out the finish, and he kept saying now, and you go, not yet, not yet, not yet, several times. And then finally, with just a couple of seconds left, you say, okay, now. And literally right as time is expiring, that's when the finish happened and the crowd just went bananas. But he was really complimenting your ability to know where that clock was and that you were just seconds away from it being a time limit draw, but instead you stole the victory. And of course you cheated, because that's what you damn dirty cheaters did. But that last minute, right as time expires, that was like a staple of yours, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just all you could do was just, it's like, actually, to me, he clearly won the match. I don't know how I got the vote, but and he look how good he is here. To see that experience, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's incredulous, the idea that he hasn't won. But of course, Patty Mullen, she's clapping because she's maybe thinking about Space Mountain. I don't know. Well, there it is. You're leaving with the big gold belt. I love just these old school graphics, the way it looks and feels. And man, this was fun. And we see 3 of the best that ever did it, sort of recapping the night for us. Tony Schiavone on the left, Jim Ross in the middle, Bob Caudle on the right. That's about as good as it gets right there, is it not, Rick?
Down memory lane for sure. Bob was there all those years at WKPLR in Raleigh, and then of course Jim I met in Oklahoma years before that, and Tony, which I have to remind him periodically, was calling balls and stretch at the single A ballpark for the Charlotte O's. So once again, Schiavone, you owe me.
Well, I don't think there's any debate about that. So check it out, and be sure to check out next week, Rick, because this was fun. But man, I want to see one of your other favorite opponents of all time. I want to talk about Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. We just showed defending the title against Sting. Next week, we're going to see you drop the title and help make Ricky the Dragon Steamboat world champion for the very first time in Chicago. That's going to be a lot of fun, is it not?
Oh man, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this